And we are finally here after 7 days of competition. Today was the final day of the Blast Fall group stage. It's been one hell of a journey up until this point, as this feels like the staging area, the launching off point for the start of a serious run of some of the biggest events left in the year. And overall, we got a very interesting and exciting suite of games over all days of the event. We really got a chance to have new teams cut their teeth, see what teams were looking like coming out of the player break, and get a pretty good assessment of what the lay of the land is going to look like heading into bigger events like Cologne and the final stage of this event itself later on this month. We are setting things off with Astralis taking on NIP, and then Complexity taking on Navi. 2 matches, 2 spots left guaranteed into the fall finals. The 2 teams who lose fall down to the showdown for one more chance, making these games super important because all of these teams would like to avoid having to squeeze in an extra event on an already stacked calendar. Dodging the showdown is huge. Unfortunately, we ended up with 2 pretty mismatched affairs, as NIP looked wholly unequipped to deal with the overwhelming run from Astralis, and Complexity and Navi had a really close first map, but unfortunately Navi were overwhelming to finish out the series. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at how we got these results. Of course, after you guys take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are less than 60 subs away from hitting 2,000 subscribers, so join us today. Help me reach that milestone. I would appreciate it greatly. While you are down there, consider becoming a channel member. For $5 a month, you can support me directly in what we do here, gain access to regular videos the night before anyone else, as well as a shout out at the end of every video. And lastly, check me out on Twitch. I'll be live tonight talking about the Blast Fall groups, maybe a little bit about the Cologne play-ins coming up, and most importantly, playing Counter-Strike and making a fool of myself, because that's what I do. So join me there, let's have a great time, and let's go ahead and start talking about Astralis taking on NIP. Unfortunately, I would describe the back half of this tournament for NIP as a reality check. They rose to incredible heights against FaZe. It was a stunning victory. Wrinkle was putting up superstar numbers with the Opponent's hand. They looked incredible, and everyone started to question, well, what could NIP really do? Could they make a run? Could they take maps off G2? Could they take maps off Astralis? The unfortunate reality is they got thrashed on these last 4 maps of their tournament. They were not able to even mount something close to a comeback in either series. And while players who had underperformed in earlier rounds like Maxter and Isaac stepped up in these games, that came at the cost of Rez and Wrinkle regressing to the mean. Wrinkle in this series was essentially a non-factor, and he was a big reason why they powered through FaZe in those earlier sets. But I don't think this is some grand indictment on Wrinkle's potential. The reality is that NIP has been floating around the tier 2 for most of this year. He hasn't had but a handful of chances to play against top tier competition, especially tier 1 oppers. Given all that context and what we would expect out of NIP in an event like this, I think overall this was a good event for them. Rez had great moments. Obviously Wrinkle had an amazing time in the FaZe series, even when things were going wrong. Like I said, Maxter reached out and had some great impacts, so did Isaac. I think strategically they called a good set of defaults. They had a good head on their shoulders. When it came down to crunch time in those games where they were in positions to win, they didn't rush. They didn't make big mistakes that you would expect out of a young team like this. So overall, I think this is the best that NIP has looked in quite a while. I think this is a tournament you walk away relatively happy from. When we get into these games, obviously it's 13-6 on Mirage, it's 13-5 on Inferno. Like I said, Astralis, they overwhelm NIP here. Astralis are able to take both of these maps without seeming to sweat whatsoever. And I think that totally makes sense. While this Astralis lineup is nowhere near as tactically centered as the old Astralis, the old best team of all time, they still have this great base that is just fundamental to Danish Counter-Strike. Danish Counter-Strike has pioneered a super structured, team-oriented approach where everybody's contributing. Everyone knows how to throw nades, flash support, molly support, play around each other. And all of the great Danish teams have gotten so good at this that they've essentially made this the way we play Counter-Strike now. Before Astralis broke onto the scene, it was a much looser, more default-heavy version of Counter-Strike. But now, if you want to be a top 10 team in the world, you have to have a bag that's deep. You have to go deep into the map pools and the anti-strats and be that consistent. And ultimately, that means that a team like Astralis is a nightmare matchup for NIP, because the best way to pick apart young, worse competition is to just have better structure. You add on top of that, Device dropping 30 kills across the series, Yavi dropping 30 kills across the series. He had 20 kills on Mirage. Yavi looking really good for this event. Everybody's activated. They're working so good on their CT sides. They're not allowing the T sides to really gain any momentum, which means they're going into the second half of both of these games with huge leads, which makes it way easier to secure wins. I know I'm speaking pretty generally, pretty broadly, but when you watch this series play out, there's just not a whole lot of interest going on. Astralis were the better team. And when you're taking these 9-3, 8-4 opening halves into the second half of play, MR12 leaves so little room for a comeback to begin with that as soon as NIP falls back even another step, the game is free for Astralis. You take the economic control and you only have to win a handful of rounds. As for where Astralis sits right now, I mean, you look at their progress through this event, they beat the Falcons twice, they lose to Vitality twice, and then they cap it off with beating NIP to qualify. Again, Astralis, they look really solid, but my biggest worry is that they don't seem to pull up when you're playing top 10 competition. Their last win against a top 10 opponent was FaZe all the way back in Pro League Season 19. So I kind of project to see Astralis making a lot of playoff runs. They'll make it through the group stage of a lot of these tournaments, but as soon as it gets to playoff time and they're playing the best teams in the world, I think this roster becomes suspect. I don't know if that's down to devices calling, the team hasn't had enough time to incubate, or what, but when they start playing serious opponents, they are not the same consistent team that just beats up on the tier 2 like they do right now. Moving on to our very last match of the tournament, we have Complexity taking on Navi. Both of these teams have been up and down in this tournament, so this was surely going to be an interesting matchup. And when we pull up to Anubis, the very first map, I think we got to see that interesting matchup play out in its entirety. Both of these halves were extremely close. This game came down to the wire. It was a 13-11 victory for Navi, and on the very last round, it could have gone either way, and we're looking at overtime. Though at points, I don't think anyone expected the game to end up that close. We start up with Complexity on the CT side, and they walk up and they win the first 6 of 7 rounds, which is insanely dominant when you consider just how difficult the CT side of Anubis is. In terms of production, honestly, this was a great start for Complexity. Elige is activated, engaged, doing well. JT and Floppy are having solid halves to start. JT himself, honestly, here and throughout this tournament, had great impact for an in-game leader. He played better than I would have expected him to. HeartZ also getting his own. The player that's falling behind and fell behind for this entire tournament is Grim. When you look at his stats throughout this series, throughout this tournament, he is the worst performing player on Complexity right now, and going forward, he's probably the first guy you have to consider for a roster change. Grim, unfortunately, has just not met expectations. He was tapped originally to be a breakout NA star, and he's definitely had moments where he's looked really good with Elige, but he's just far too inconsistent, and he's not what this team needs right now. A topic to save for another time. So overall, Complexity are off to a great start. They got a good lead going on a very hard half of Counter-Strike, but things start to get ugly pretty quick. On round 8, an echoing Navi team pushed straight into the A side. JL gets a sick double kill with the Mac 10, and they win a round that Complexity should have been able to lock down, and from there, Navi spin that into the final 4 rounds of the half going their way, turning a 6-1 deficit into a 6-6 tie going into their own CT half, where they started off winning the pistol round and the first 3 right after, so they pretty much flipped everything on its head. It was 6-1, and now, out of nowhere, it is 10-6, and Complexity are on the back foot. And at this point, Graham is struggling, Elige hasn't really had much impact yet on the T side, I'm freaking out, but finally, hope appears on the horizon. We pull up to round 17, coming out of the timeout. Complexity got all the money in the bank they want to try and start chipping away at this deficit. This round's going to open up with absolute chaos, as not only are the Complexity players going to push for water control, so is Navi. Emma's going to quick drop window into mid, JL is going to push rugs. It's absolutely bedlam, and the trades go Navi's way. It's a 3v4 in Navi's favor within like the first 15 to 20 seconds. Leaving Complexity to bend it back into a late B push, and now they have to try and overcome this deficit just to start their comeback. If they lose here, their economy is looking terrible, and Navi are on the 11th round, so this is a round they have to win. It comes down to Elige, HeartZ, and Grim, and they make it work. Wonderful makes it a little bit scary, leaving HeartZ and Grim in the 2v2 to clutch out in the post plant, and thankfully, so thankfully, they managed to make it work against Alexi B and Bit. Grim gets the closing kill, only his 5th kill so far in this game, but god damn it wasn't an impactful one, and Complexity start the train to try and work their way back into this game. They'd equalize the score 10-10 before Navi could fire a shot back. And on that round, what went wrong for Complexity is they simply failed to execute on an insane advantage. JT would get 2 picks in A, opening up the site completely for them to make their way in, and as JT entered, he fails to pick up his 3rd kill, and consequently everyone in Complexity falls down right behind him, swinging what should have been a 5-3 sure win into suddenly Grim all on his own, facing a 1v3 clutch that he was unable to make happen. which, you know, couldn't be me. If you put me in that situation, I'm winning that clutch 360 backwards with my monitor off. You know, I'm just built different like that. It's understandable why Grim couldn't do it. All I'm saying is, you know, me, basically the best player you've never seen. Don't look me up on Twitch because those aren't me. Those are all fake. And now things are starting to get real serious. We open up the next round. Complexity looking to equalize and fend off match point. Floppy is going to do really well to catch Bit in the rugs. He's going to dodge the arm shot from Wonderful and get the early pick advantage. And while Wonderful has to honor that and back out of A, Elige has found a gap into mid. He takes some forward control, smokes off camera, which is going to spook a rotate out of Navi, make them really worried about a potential mid to B push. Elige is going to back off. Complexity are going to formulate into a late B hit here. And as the utility starts to fly in, Emma and JL mine gold. They take 2 uncontested picks, flipping the round odds add into a 3v4 Navi advantage, but Elige has found the gap. He's all the way through mid. He's cleared A. He's guarding the connector from B. Now Complexity are in a mad dash to rotate to A before the time runs out and get the bomb down. Elige is unable to find a pick in transition, so he has to back up and play the bomb with his teammates. He's going to take this really smart tuck onto the corner by the bricks and patiently wait. HeartZ is going to bandy around with JL in camera. HeartZ is eventually going to get the pick on JL while Wonderful tries to take a shot from the bricks. Elige is being oh so patient, looking for a potential second player camera. Eventually, he is going to take the swing on the Wonderful. It's going to miss, so he has to fall off the bricks, go around to the stairs, push up into heaven with HeartZ as Elige comes on the flank, finds JT as HeartZ turns on the stairs, gets the pick on Emma in heaven. Elige, HeartZ, they turn around, they push up the stairs straight at Wonderful. Elige gets the trade out as HeartZ goes down to Wonderful, and Elige is forced in the last few seconds to wrap around heaven as Elige throws the grenade and dives on the bomb. There's no time left. Elige jumps around the corner, gets the pick and the clutch, and we are now tied 11-11. And here we go once again for Navi. They find themselves on Anubis late in the game and the money's dried up. They're trying to hold off yet another North American team trying to steal this map away from them. And if they lose this round, it's basically over. There's nothing left in the tank. Complexity's going to play patient. They know that Navi aren't working with much, so they don't want to give up unnecessary picks. They're going to work the mid control. They're going to get exploratory, see if maybe there's a gap towards A. They're not going to follow suit. They're going to fall back and set up for the late B take. And Navi, they're entrenched. They're as hold up as they could be. No counter utility. They just have to hit shots. And shots they do. Emma and Wonderful ring out picks with the M4 and the Deagle. HeartZ and Elige answer right back. Wonderful manages to jump up into the dark where Emma just fell. Deagle in hand finds another clutch shot, taking down HeartZ as Floppy finds JL, and it comes down to the 2v2. Bit, Wonderful versus Elige and Floppy. Wonderful's going to go down. Bit on the flank, coming through E-Box with the MP9. Bit, who's been so heroic for this team throughout this event, manages to find the crazy 1v2 clutch against Elige and Floppy with the MP9. So close to match point for Complexity, but they have to let it go. Short memory, we're moving right into the next round, but guess what? Now Complexity is broke and they don't have a match point. They're trying to prevent a map loss now. It's down to just the Tech-9s in a dream. And initially, it looks like the prayers might be answered. They're going for the mid push with the pistols, and Navi have decided to stack the bomb sites. They have no intel towards mid whatsoever. They don't know where the Complexity players are. Complexity are going to wait. They're assuming that maybe someone's going to explore towards mid to get some intel, but nothing comes their way. They're able to walk through mid unabated and set up for the A pinch. Both of the Navi A defenders, they're pushed towards rugs. There is a gap here for Complexity to exploit, a gap that could give them a chance of sending this game to overtime. They creep through, they're going through camera, the pinch is on, they collapse into the site. Bit isn't able to find anything. JL goes down, he finds one pick for his troubles, Floppy trades him out. And now the bomb is down. It's a 4v3. Complexity suddenly flipped the script. Navi are on the back foot. All they have to do is hold. HeartZ tucks into the same spot Elige was just a few rounds ago. They have the position. They have the guns. They have the time on their hands. All they have to do is play safe. There's no reason for Complexity to get too greedy here, but something compels HeartZ to take a bad swing by himself. JT goes down the stairs. Elige finds one. He's tucked onto the fountain with Floppy just holding a Tech-9. It's all on Elige. It's always been on Elige, but he can't find either pick. Emma, Wonderful, they push down to try and find the bomb. Floppy's going to take the swing, but he can't find the picks. Navi steal the game right out from Complexity. Around the Complexity basically won. All they had to do was play the trades, and they threw it away. And here we are, yet another heartbreaking loss for Complexity. How many more can this team take? Apparently, that's the last one, because we pull up to Nuke and there's no more gas left. Elige has given everything he has. Navi, they dominate the T side. It's a 9-3 T half on Nuke, and there's nothing going on. It's full on wee woo. We're falling apart. Elige had like 1 kill over 7 rounds. At that point, I'm just saying they're going, no, 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 not like this. But it looks like it is exactly like that, because what can they do when Navi are so dominant as a Nuke team? Elige is missing. Halzerk is missing. Grim finally wakes up, but it's too little too late. Wonderful is so good on the CT side of Nuke lately that there's just nothing for Complexity to face except taking the L in the series 2-0. It could have been so different had that 1 round on Anubis gone Complexity's way. We're talking about a very different series, but that's just the breaks. Counter-Strike, it comes down to the smallest details. Whew. Alright, Navi, they take the series 2-0. They played so good here. Redemption for those heartbreaking losses against Liquid. Complexity, I don't know, man. It's tough to be a fan of this team. It's going to pull on your heartstrings to do so. They look so good, and then so bad. We're so back, and then we're so not. I'm exhausted. And that's how we conclude the events here at the Blast Fall Groups. A little bit of general tournament talk. The MVP for this tournament for me was m0NESY. G2 cruised through easily in all of their series, and m0NESY continues to be the best player in the world, so it makes sense that he's MVP here. As for our 6 teams that are guaranteed to make the fall finals, we have Liquid and G2 leading the way, followed by Vitality, Spirit, Navi, and Astralis. My overall thoughts for this tournament are Liquid looks scary, but it was the first time through, so we don't know what to expect going forward. The rest of the teams that didn't qualify still have a chance at the follow-up last showdown. Out of those teams, I would expect maybe Complexity, FaZe, Cloud9, Heroic, VP to be the teams that are definitely favored in that competition. But before that, we have Cologne. So there's definitely more Counter-Strike coming your way. Thank you guys for following me on the journey throughout this tournament. It's been very fun to cover. Now we're back out of the player break, and we're not slowing down. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more stuff coming your way. Help me reach 2,000 subscribers, all that good stuff. These videos are powered by Advanced GG. Shout out to them for helping me out as always. They do energy supplements, they do hydration supplements, they even have sleep formulas, multivitamins, things for your daily life that make you better. I really do stand behind and believe in their products, so if you browse their site, find something you want, and decide to make a purchase, use my code LIONS10 at checkout for 10% off. It lets them know I sent them your way. Thank you as always. Shout out to my channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Bubblesj, and Dr. Cocktor for keeping the lights on. If you want to become a channel member, check the link in the description down below. While you're down there, follow me on Twitch as well. And with that, my name is LionHeartZ. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace.